All right, I'm Coach Micheal, Burt, the super coach. I believe everybody needs a good coach in life. And I've got a new book coming out called Flip the Switch, which will be book number 17 for me. Who would have known a high school basketball coach could pump out those books? And certainly my English teacher would have never thought in a million years when I was in high school that I'd write 17 books. But I've got a new podcast coming out called Flip the Switch, how to activate the prey drive in you for massive success. And I'm very fortunate because the very first guest that I've had on this show, this new podcast, is a real player that I've just recently met. And I'm very excited about seeing what flipped his switch, what activated his prey drive. Today, I've got Dan Lesniak, billion-dollar real estate agent, best-selling author, investor, developer, and coach. Dan's hyper-local strategy led to one of the fastest starts in real estate with over 22 million in sales in the first year, which is incredible for anybody. Since then, Dan and Carrie Scholl's combined team has grown to 80 plus members this year, over $500 million of volume annually. So Dan, welcome to, man, you're the first guy on the new podcast, Flip the Switch. How's that feel, big guy?
That feels awesome. I didn't know I was number one. So I was excited before we got on, but now I'm even more excited. Well,
you know, I'm writing this book. I spent the last 28 years of my life as a coach to people, first as the basketball coach. And I'm sitting, I want to set the stage here to ask you some key questions. I'm sitting in a workshop with an obscure psychologist who mentions these two words called prey drive. And he was in the Vietnam War. He was in the war dog division of the Vietnam War. And his job was to wake up every morning and go out in front of the infantry. And the dog's job was to sniff out bombs, booby traps, ambushes, very dangerous job. And he talks about this dog having a prey drive, Preydrive, which is the dog's ability to stalk, capture, and kill prey. I'm sitting there as a coach going, I think humans have a prey drive. Real estate agents have a prey drive. It's the ability to see it, go get it, and bring it home. Right? So then I started studying all these motivational models. And every motivational model said the same thing. We move toward things we want. When we're hungry, we move toward food. When we're thirsty, we move toward water. So I began building out a curriculum around this prey drive on the activators of prey drive that we're going to get into today with you, because something flipped in you at some point. You were turned on to something by somebody. But let's go back to that first year. And you did 22 million bucks. Most real estate agents come out of the gates and do, $1 million or 2 million or 3 million or 5 million, or they do 8 deals. The average real estate agent's doing 7 deals a year to 9 deals a year. What happened, Dan? How did that happen?
Yeah, it was not something I planned. And like many real estate agents that do really well, I didn't grow up thinking I would do it. It's not something they teach you in school. And I had grown up in this model where you work hard in school so that you can go to the next school and work harder there and get a good job so you can, keep climbing the ladder and all of that. And it worked really well for me for the first 31 or so years of my life. And then all of a sudden it didn't. So I went to the Naval Academy. I was a submarine officer. I got multiple advanced degrees. And when I got my MBA at Georgetown, I thought, all right, I will go out. I'll work for a McKinsey, a BCG, one of these big strategy consulting firms. I'll make 150, 180. Yeah. So anyway, I was interviewing with all these big guys after, doing years of hard work in school and kind of following the system. And they all said, like, you'd be good at this part of the job, but not this part, which is the sales part. Go out and figure that out and then reapply. And that activated what I maybe didn't even realize at the time, this competitiveness in me to prove them wrong. So all along the way in my real estate career, I've had the most growth when I'm put in competitive situations. So that the competition, but for whatever reason, it gets me burning, gets lights of fire under me. And that's what makes me go hardest.
Well, that's interesting because that's one of the 5 activators I talk about in the book. Is competition, and so for some reason, what's the psychology of that? Was it something in your upbringing? Like I'm motivated by fear of loss. Like one of mine is fear of loss, but that could be loss of favor, I didn't really have a great relationship with my father growing up. So there's probably a lot of rejection there. So anytime I feel rejected, my prey drive is very activated. Like if you told me, man, you're good, coach, but you're not as good as Tom Ferry is, like that would activate my prey drive. You follow what I'm saying? Because anytime I feel a little hint of rejection, it's like, it's on now, Dan. You just activated my drive, man. I will show you how good I am. Now, so for you, did the competition piece come from your background? Is there some psychology into that?
Yeah, I think it came from my upbringing and my parents, in particular my mother, kind of pushing me to be, number one in the class or number one in, whatever I was doing. And I had multiple siblings, which I think contributes to that as well. And so I think it's just been a part of my upbringing. And then as a result, I intentionally sought out competitive situations and hard things. And I think that reinforced it and strengthened it as I went. And, I think maybe I was at a point when I was kind of just chugging along and, at my government contracting job and doing okay, but I element of, fierce competition. And so when I started to get into real estate, I was like, all right, I had this very unique strategy, and I wanted to take over 180, 190 condos in one building and start from there. And I was determined to get like every sale in that building. And I ended up, that was where half the sales my first year came from. I got half the market share in one building. And then I just kind of slowly moved out from there. And look, in real estate, the market's big enough for hundreds of agents, thousands of agents to succeed. But having competition, even though it's somewhat of a false sense, like it motivates me. And the highest form of competition really, which is now what I try to get to, is just competing against myself. Can I outdo what I did last year or last month or last week? Right. Now, in all areas of life.
Let me ask you this question. Have you taken a disc profile on your personality style?
I have. Yep.
And what is your, do you remember what you were?
Yeah, I am high D and high C, and sometimes it shifts. I've taken it multiple times. Sometimes the I kind of gets up there a little too, but it's usually D and then C as the strongest.
Well, it's interesting.
And then I've taken the values, which is like step 2 of that as well. And I'm very high on the economic scale and very high on the political scale. And the political scale is not like, left versus right or all of that. It's more of about responsibility, and I think competition kind of comes into that a little as well. So,
well, it's interesting because high Ds, are constantly competing versus something. Matter of fact, I'm a high D, and they wake up angry sometimes. Like I woke up angry this morning, Dan, and I told my team,
why are you angry?
well, one of the characteristics of a high D is anger. They're not angry at other people. They're angry because they're not moving at the pace they want to move. They're angry because some competitor is beating them. They're angry because, you're there doing half a billion and somebody's doing $1 billion, right? Like that drives a high D. Like if they don't have, that's what I was thinking about, this competition you're talking about. Sometimes a high D, if they don't have a competition, they create one. If they don't have a fight, they make one, right? Because they need that fight to be in. They need that, because you're doing Ironmans, you're doing other things. And that's part of your desire to like you versus you, right? How far can you go? How much can you push?
It is. And I think the Ironman competition and ultras, I think it's an important part of life, in that we don't have the same competition that we did as mankind, like 100, even 50 years ago, just to stay alive. Like we went from having to hunt for our food to you can go to a grocery store to now I just get on my phone and groceries are on my doorstep. And like life is so easy, which is good, but it's also bad because it takes away that skill that builds persistence and grit. So I think these fake, if you will, competitions, which is kind of what an Ironman is, have a lot of real benefit.
Yeah. So let's talk about the secret sauce. that, you obviously have created a methodology, which I think lots of people of interest, lots of people flip the switch. It's like they've codified their success, right? Like, what would you say is the unique methodology you've used? This, would it be hyper local strategy or hyper fast? Like, what would you explain? Like, how would you explain it to a person if they haven't read your book, if they don't really understand? How would you put that into a context?
Yeah, so in the book, I talk about this framework, which I actually learned in business school, called segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And I feel like a lot of real estate agents get in the business and they just try everything, and they're kind of scattered and their efforts aren't focused and concentrated. And that can work, but just not as quick, not as fast for sure. So this idea is, first you segment the market, and it can be done a lot of different ways, like geography, professions, lifestyle. Then you pick target, one or at most two target segments at least to start. And those are going to be the people that you're going to try and do business with. And it has to be big enough that it matters, right? That you you don't want to have 100% market share of 5 sales, but it has to be small enough that you can actually make an impact. And this is where most people struggle. I think they go too big at first. So like for me, I was going to dominate those 180 condo units, right? I wasn't going to try and be the real estate agent for all 250,000 people in Arlington. Like, that just wouldn't work starting out. It would, it's too much. And then the last part of it is positioning. So like, how are you going to position yourself to be the agent, to be the person to add the most value to that market segment? And I think this works not just in real estate, but really in all business and all areas of life. So I like to kind of carry it over just in my day-to-day routine. Like when I get up, or even the night before, usually I'll write down all the things I have to do, but then I'll circle or prioritize or put in order, like the top 2 or 3 things. And then those are the first 3 things that I'm going to attack in the morning. And I'm usually done with them before like 8 a.m. And so it's this idea of narrowing your efforts and concentrating as much force as possible onto the things that will have the most leverage and get you the biggest results, fastest results.
Yeah, good. Now, why? I think that's great. I think it's fascinating because I think most people, you have a real methodology. Like, this is what really makes you a person of interest, right? Like, you're not just a real estate agent or a realtor. Like, you're kind of this specialist, like Navy SEAL. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have this real special skill set in segmentation, positioning, that the average agent goes out there and just takes on anybody, right? They don't really understand. Like, even statistics say that 67% of people, I learned this by SmartZip. SmartZip is a company in Silicon Valley that uses big data back. They hired me to come in and train their salespeople. And what I learned was, there's a stat I never forgot. And the stat said that 67% of people used the very first real estate agent that contacted them. So their whole company was built around telling you, or forecasting in each subdivision, which houses were most likely to go on the market. So the agent could call the people and say, hey, if you look to put your house on the market, I'd like to be the one that represents it. But it was all based on one number, that 67% of people used the very first agent that contacted them. So for you, when you're targeting and segmenting and positioning, okay, you've given one example there of you said, I want to dominate all 180 of these condos. Give another example of how an agent could do this.
Yeah, like a classic one, and this one really costs no money, and it's something that we talked about yesterday, actually, when you were on my podcast. But this one would be for the agent that is going to be dedicated, committed to getting on the phone for at least 2 hours a day. Yep. And you would just target the homes in your market that are expired listings and withdrawn listings. And in most markets, you're going to get 100, 200, to call a day. And you would just call those lists of people for 2 hours a day. And the numbers basically suggest you're gonna get 1 or 2 people a week. Like every day you'll probably get 1 to 3 appointments. And then if you do that 5 days a week, you're going to end up getting 2 appointments and probably sign one of them. And, you do that for a solid year, that's 48, 50 sales. Like, and you can start off as a brand new agent in any market and do it. Most people just aren't going to sit down and call, for 2 hours a day, but it doesn't cost you anything hardly. Like you can get the phone dialing service for like $100 a month. I think it's nothing. Anyone can do that.
So with you now, where you are today, you got these 80 plus agents, you're doing half a $1 billion. You've obviously got a unique background, that a unique pedigree, right? Based on the business school you went to, the military, based on these things. Like that gives you, would you say that gives you a competitive advantage over the average real estate agent?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I can outwork and outfocus, almost anybody in the real estate industry.
So how do you spend your time now, versus when you first started running your agency, right? Like what I spend a lot of my time now doing is being more of a magician, versus the mule that I used to be. Like I'm still a mule. Like I still work hard every day. How do you spend your time now?
Yeah. So we've gone from my wife and I being like in the middle of all of the sales to now recruiting, hiring, and training the agents. And then, and that's one of our businesses. The other is coaching. So we're coaching, 25 people at the mastermind level and a couple hundred more at a lower level, plus more people through our courses and whatnot. And then I spend a ton of time now on a development business. So I'm looking for deals, scouring deals that my agents bring me, analyzing them, reaching out to investors. So I think we've raised almost 15 million in the last year. And we have over 100 condos in our pipeline. And these are like all in really good areas or up and coming areas in the DC area. So they're awesome, recession proof, and we can pay out our investors, even through the middle of pandemic and everything that's going on. We've been selling the deals that have, that are being built and coming to market and doing really well. So those are like our 3 main businesses, right? Real estate, coaching, and development. We're also expanding into other areas, doing more joint ventures. So, we're designing multiple systems, multiple streams of income, and, just trying to push up and get to that next level. I still got to get the jet like you.
I told my president this morning in our meeting, I'm like, look, we're taking that jet somewhere soon. Okay. I'm tired of it being parked there. I'm tired of paying for it. And it just sitting there on the runway. Like, I don't care where we go. We're putting a team on it, but I'm doing this real estate event in Atlanta coming up. And I'm like, we're taking it to Atlanta. Okay. And I know it's a 3-hour drive, but it's a 23-minute flight. And we're putting a team on there because, man, I'm like, it does me no good sitting in the tarmac. like I got to use it. Or you're just paying for something you don't ever use, right?
Well, probably, and if you broke it down like an accountant or a lawyer would, they would say like, yeah, drive to Atlanta, but you're going to put your team on there. It's going to fire them up. It's going to fire you up. And, maybe that gets you a couple extra deals or who knows. And you pay that gas 10 times over from that. So.
Yeah. You need intangibles. You need invisible assets. You need things. That was exactly my point to her, is that, look, man, getting the team on the jet, getting them excited, getting them out of the office, getting them down to Atlanta, getting them going. Like there's a value there that's not quantitative initially, but it is qualitative, and it will return on energy, number one, return on objective, number two, of just, that's part of the cool thing of working with me, is not just coming to an office and selling coaching every day. It's we get out amongst the world and do things. All right. Last question for you. And when you're thinking about these prey drive activators and you have these 80 plus agents and you're coaching people, I believe there's certain activators of a person's prey drive that flips the switch in them. For you, it's competition. Fear of loss is one. Environment is one. Exposure to bigger ideas and bigger think is one. Embarrassment for some people is one. How do you take an agent and flip the switch in that agent? What's your personal methodology in like taking a person? You know, my biggest success story is an agent doing 38 deals a year, now doing 160 deals a year. And, you know, how did I flip the switch in that guy? What's your methodology and how to do that?
Yeah, I think you just have to talk to them and ask questions and listen and respond. And like, not everybody will respond the same way. And I've probably struggled with this at times because to me, you know, I relate to competition, I relate to money, and sometimes I think like, you know, that should just be enough. Like they've got income and the more sales they make, the more income they get. But then we found like if we add competition to it, if we do like a contest, that will activate a lot of people. And it's silly to me sometimes to think like, okay, they're competing for like a dinner or some experience that we're going to do. But like if they just went out and sold an extra home, they could buy like 10 of those.
Yeah.
Right. But the competition, I think, like motivates them as a group. Sometimes it's just like setting big goals for the group. So like you know, all of our agents have individual goals, but we have big goals too. Like we want to sell 1,000 homes this year. Right. Motivator. When we get to like, you know, we've never broken 100 sales in 1 month, and June we're at like 92, 93. We're like really, really close. And so I think just like as we get closer, putting that number out drives some of them, because that's a pretty cool thing to do, to hit 100 sales as a team, home sales in 1 month. I mean, that's like almost 60 million at our price point. So I think, yeah, it's different for everyone. Some people it's more group oriented, some people more individual. So I think when you're running a team, you have to like do a mix of a whole lot of things. You have to, I think, focus on rewarding leading indicators as well. So that's something we've really worked on, like not just rewarding contracts, but like creating contests where the activities that we think would lead to contracts, like time on the phone, follow up, getting reviews online, like we reward those things sometimes in the contest. But I think it's, you know, you just got to have a mix of things that reward short term and long term, you know, leading indicators, lagging indicators, and then find out on an individual level through questions like what's going to specifically motivate those people.
Nice. Well, many times, and I'm sure you're in agreement, that switch has to be flipped by another person. There are a small percentage of people who can flip it in themselves, right? And those are your upper tier people who really know how to create that. I think about, you know, when you watch The Last Dance with Jordan, he could create a competition, or he could take one slight indignation and turn it into a reason to show you, right, why he was the best. And I think that's a very small percentage of people. Left to our own devices, most people contract and retreat to a place of comfort. So, you know, you creating the environment as an activator of prey drive. Like you said, I try to teach a high degree of personal responsibility in my company. We don't do reward strips. I say, we're going to give you enough opportunity to make enough money to take yourself anywhere you want in the world. You're not doing it for me. You're doing it for your family. But I do fully recognize, like you said, that healthy competition, if just winning, even if it's winning a dinner or recognition or something to other people. So Dan, you're a fascinating dude, man. Congratulations on all your success.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be on your show, especially since it's the first episode. So
Number one, man, flip the switch. Hopefully you'll help us make this the book a bestseller. Probably the book will be out, I think, in the fall of 2021, but I'm working on a major book deal for this one. And writing it has been fun, studying human nature, talking to guys like you, listening to how the top people perform. So you got several things people could be interested in. You and I are going to discuss potentially maybe doing an event together at some point. I think would be really cool. I really like your targeting and your hyper focus. I think that's a unique thing a lot of people don't talk about, especially not in real estate. So I think you bring a level of focus for a person to go, oh, Why am I not doing this? Like, this is crazy, right? So where can people find out more information about you?
Yeah, if you go to social media, and my handle on all the different platforms is the Dan Lesniak. So that's one way. And if you want to learn more about our coaching program, you can go to hyperfastagent.com. And if you go to one last website here, if you go to Hyperfast Tips, so that's hyperfasttips.com, we will give you 100 tips from my best-selling book, The Hyperlocal Hyperfast Real Estate Agent. You can download those, right to your phone or computer or whatever. So that's hyperfasttips.com.
I love it, man. Thank you for spending some time with me today. And I look forward to getting to know you at a deeper level. Thank you for being the first guest on Flip the Switch, how to activate the prey drive in you for massive success. And we're going to be following up with each other to do some big things, man.
All right. I am looking forward to it. Thanks again. And I hope your listeners got a ton of value out of this.
Absolutely. I took some notes. They got some good value. Thank you, bud. Have a great day.
Thank you.
This month in Monster Producer, I'm coaching people in how to get on the same page with their team. And one of the constant themes I hear over and over from every team I coach is, how do we get these people on board? How do we wake them up from a complacency? How do we get them to operate at the highest frequency?
What's up, Doc?
I've been teaching the concept of a thunderbolt, a strategy I learned from the great Pat Riley, which is a sudden, unexpected jolt of energy. The thunderbolt can be positive, it can be negative, but it is always a curveball to make the team think, to make the team perform, to make the team come back to life when they've laid down. Get in Monster Producer, and let me teach you the strategies I use to build world-class, championship-winning teams.